And welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel Fogelman. My guest this week is Casey Biggs. Now, Casey is probably best known for playing Damar, the Cardassian on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And just think about his character arc. When he first started, he had a throwaway line in one episode and basically became the leader of the Cardassian resistance. It's a great character arc. We discuss that as well. We discuss working with the cast, also how he got the role of Damar, and he was an alcoholic on the show. Basically, none of the humans had any vices or issues. It was all the aliens, and Damar was an alcoholic. He loved his kanar, and we discuss what exactly was in the kanar that he was drinking. We also discussed some of his other roles. Most recently, he was in the David O. Russell movie Amsterdam. And we discuss his death scene in the John Woo movie Broken Arrow. Really enjoyed my conversation with Casey, and I hope you do as well. So Casey, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so I guess we can start with like one of your most recent movies that I saw fairly recently before I even reached out to you. And I had no idea that you were in it, was Amsterdam. I love David O. Russell's movies. Three Kings is one of my favorite movies. Absolutely love that one. And that movie had a lot of stars in there.
I'd say every star in Hollywood was in the damn thing.
Yeah.
David Russell, he's a character boy. The thing about that film, he never let you read the script, and you never even saw the sides. You showed up on the day, and they said, okay, he'd call you over and say, okay, say this. And it's like if you and I were in a scene. I mean, he did this with De Niro, with Rami Malek, with everybody. He just said, okay, now we were rolling and said, okay, you say this, now you say this, now you say this, now you say this. And I said to the sound guys, how the hell are you getting this? I said, it's very difficult.
Wow.
And we were shooting it in the height of COVID. So David was, the director, had 15 layers of stuff on. You never even saw what he looked like. But I was fortunate. He liked me a lot. I was shooting another thing just before that for a Netflix series about Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, okay.
And it was called what was it called? It was Colin in Black and White, and I played his very first important football coach. And while I was doing that, I got a call for this, and I did a Zoom thing with the producers, and they said, "Great, okay." So that was sort of a fun thing. I did about 3 weeks on that show. And my God, $100 million film. I'm sure they didn't make their money back.
No,
because
I don't think so.
if you look at the stars in that, I can't even imagine what the budget was on that thing. But, I think it'll be a sort of a cultish, interesting film, for many years to come. Because I thought it was a real sort of political, period piece thing when it ended up turning out to be like a buddy film, three people, a buddy.
Yeah.
And my God, Margot, oh my God, she's
amazing.
So fabulous. Wow.
Yeah.
Smart, funny, no attitude, nothing. Just terrific. And yeah, so I shot on Paramount, the back streets there, the New York, and then they had studios over in Pasadena too, I think. But yeah, so I'm glad I did it. Still get nice residuals from it.
Can't complain about that. Yeah. And yeah, I knew Taylor Swift was in there, but I didn't.
That's
really
right. I forgot she was in there.
How her character ended up. No spoiler alerts, but that came out of nowhere, literally. So I mean, there have been a lot of stories about David Russell throughout the press. What was your experience?
Yeah, he loved me. That's all that matters.
That's good. Okay.
I mean, the producers kept coming, so man, he loves you. He thinks you're so real. I said, well, that's what you hire me for Christ's sake, But and also with Christian, Christian Bale has a lot of stories about him, but he was just terrific as well. We chatted night, and De Niro. I spent a lot of time talking to De Niro, and as I said, I had a lot more scenes in it, but they just kept getting cut because of whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter to me. I mean, you just as a film actor and even TV actor, you're a piece of the puzzle,
right?
And as on stage, it's you. On stage, you are the puzzle. But on film, you're a piece of the puzzle. So,
right. And when you even mentioned Michael Shannon, who's also amazing.
Wonderful.
So many, great.
And Anya Taylor-Joy.
Oh, yeah. she was great too.
Zoe Saldana. I mean, she
Yeah,
was in it.
yeah,
And they had you had to sign all these non-disclosure things. I keep thinking, who gives a shit about
right.
movies? You got to sign a non-disclosure so that nobody knows about it. Who cares? I never get that myself. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like they do like Star Wars movies or Marvel movies. They like, because everyone wants a spoiler. So, and they interview these actors for 9 million other roles. And of course, when they do the junkets, question comes up for one of those and they try to pry and, as much information as you can. So,
yeah,
yeah, I guess. And even Chris Rock was in that movie too. So,
Chris. Yeah, I hung out with Chris.
yeah,
I make wine, and I brought a bunch of my wine up there and was giving wine to Margot and Chris and all these people. I said, "You like wine? Here, have a bottle of my wine."
right. Yeah. But I'm gonna go back, I guess pretty far. I actually saw this movie in high school, in school, because it was like our health class, Death Drug. They actually showed that to us.
Is that something I did?
Yeah, with Philip Michael Thomas.
Oh, Philip Thomas. It was called Death. They changed the title then.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Philip and I were terrific friends. We
Okay.
did this movie called Running Wild, it was originally called The Beasts Are in the Streets, about a couple of wild country safari guys, like that's what we were. And there's a big accident, and all the animals get out, and we shot it in we shot in Texas,
Okay.
Plano, Texas, and that's where I first met
Right.
Philip, and we became great friends. And this was, before Miami Vice stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like the token white guy in that thing, you know,
Yeah.
because they said we need a white actor, and Philip said, "Oh, I got it. I'll call my buddy Casey." And the Gap Band was in that too,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun because they had an introduction by him doing it, and he was like years later. I think this was like maybe after Miami Vice, and I saw it like in the early 90s when I was in high school, and they, explained the dangers of drugs, this and that, and he was like shooting pool while he was doing the introduction. It was really funny, but it wasn't really meant to be because it's supposed to be, scare you, but it was just the
Yeah,
way
right.
he shot it, and it was just really funny. But yeah, the movie was, exploitation, kind of movie back
Yeah.
in the, late
I mean,
70s. But
I just liked hanging out with the Gap Band and all those
yeah,
guys.
exactly. Great music and stuff like that. Yeah. And you mentioned
Forgot about that.
yeah, when you did Amsterdam, you did like a Zoom, I guess audition. How much of those do you do now, and do you prefer doing those, or rather
Oh
be
yeah.
in person, like in the
No,
room?
I prefer doing them because most of the time for like this last one, I just love this, right? NCIS Origins, it's called. So it's Mark Harmon younger, and then his father, who was played by Ralph Waite, younger. So they were interested in me to play his father. And so I, did one of these things and was terrific and great. Got that to me and one other guy, and one producer wanted me, one producer wanted the other guy, and the other guy won, but he was a freaking Australian. It really pisses me off. You got sort of an iconic American role, and you give it to an Australian. And then I watched it just to see, and the guy, he looks like me. He looks a little older than I do, but I thought, well, and that's why I'm glad I live where I live. I'm not in the midst of it. I don't count on it. I don't really care. I
Right.
mean, I've got enough money to live, and if I do find a role like Amsterdam or really great people to work with, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, but to answer your question, almost every single thing I've done in the past 4 years have been on Zoom Zoom auditions.
Right. Do you think there are a lot of actors now who will put together like a tape with their best audition, but they have time to edit it, and then when they actually get the role and get on set, it's like 180 degrees from what they actually did on tape?
It I very well could be. I mean, because what I like about it is if I'm auditioning for you, I get material,
Right.
and I have my wife reads with me, and I can watch it and I can see what I like. If I don't like it, I go back do it again. So I give them exactly what I want, opposed to going into a room and having one shot at it and saying, well, and then usually say, well, do you want it any different? Because most of the times they don't think you can do anything different. I mean, I went to Juilliard. Have been 40 years as an actor. I can do it any way you want, but usually they don't think that.
Right.
So when I do a filmed audition, I get it the way I like it to make the choices I make, and I taught in the master's program at the New School, acting
Okay.
and directing. I would teach these people, and they weren't kids either. They were from 22 to 50, for Christ's sake. And I said, you got to do your work, prepare your work, go in, give them what you want, and leave. And if they don't want that, then they don't want you. Just don't go out second guessing yourself all the time. So that's why you make sure you have to really prepare, do the work, and go in and give it to them. And if they don't want that, they just don't want you. So don't worry about it.
Right.
And when I was young, I used to think, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. Nah,
Yeah.
just do it, make your choices, be as good as, and be happy with what you did. And if they want that, they'll hire you. If they don't, and most of the time it gets down to, oh, you got blue eyes and you got brown eyes. I like the blue eyes better.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Was there anybody like when you auditioned, you kept running into in the room the same person?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in New York, particularly lots, same people, and in LA too, and it was back in the day, because you got a role who's 35-year-old, white guy, blah blah blah, this or that, and usually if it's not your show, you're the bad guy, so you end up being the bad guy.
Right.
Like with Star Trek. I mean, I told this story a lot in the conventions, Star Trek conventions. I went in, they called me, they wanted me to go in, and I didn't know the show. I didn't watch any of it except for the original
Right.
Show when I was a kid. And I looked at it, and literally there were 5 words in the audition. That's it.
Yeah.
They're in range, sir, fire. What the hell? And, not only that, they had 20 guys out there reading for the part.
Yeah.
And I walk in there, and there's, 10 producers in there. And so I sit down, I'd read the part, and they go, oh, that was really great. I think, who the hell are these people? I mean, thinking that is. And so I said to myself, too, I said, they could have gotten an extra to do this part. So I go home and I get a call, said, oh, they really loved you. They want to see you again tomorrow. And same thing, they said, oh, we really loved your reading yesterday.
Yeah.
Wow, you're in range, sir, fire. But I didn't know that they had plans for that character.
Okay. Right.
And the biggest thing I didn't know is Ira Bear, who's a good buddy now. He was the showrunner. He was a huge fan of the Alamo.
Okay.
And I did the very first dramatic IMAX film, which was about the Alamo. I played, William Barrett Travis, the hero of the Alamo.
Yeah.
And he had seen that. And what I didn't know is I had the job the moment I walked in the door. But, you don't know that stuff.
Right, of course.
It has nothing to do with they're in range, sir, fire.
Yeah.
It has to do with, he told me later, he went home and told his wife, he said, you're not going to believe who came into this audition today. Casey Biggs came in there. So we don't know this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You go in, you leave it, go home and forget about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice for him to tell you, oh yeah, you're going to be doing, 20 plus episodes throughout the series. So.
Well, one of the big, I was on for 5 years, for Christ's sake. One of the biggest things, I think was the last season or the second to the last season, I got a Broadway show. Because with the recurring roles, you get a script, you do it,
yeah,
you'll never know if you're coming back. So I got the show and I went and told him. And he said, what? I've just written you into 13 more episodes. I said, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going. So look, they could have killed me off. What they did is they flew me back on my days off to shoot the shows.
Oh, wow.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
They could have, gotten somebody else. They could have killed me off. They could have, like with Jeff Combs, they killed him off in the first Wayun episode, and they realized, wait a minute, we really like this character. What are we going to do? I said, oh, well, we'll just create a planet where they keep cloning Wayun.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened with Jeff.
Exactly. Ended up getting killed 8 more times. So
yeah.
It was,
One of my favorite lines is one of my favorite scenes. He comes after, I think he was killed by Worf or something.
Yeah.
A new Wayun comes, and I'm sitting there drinking that horrible kanar shit. And he starts giving me grief, and I say, I better be careful, or I'll be talking to Wayun number 9.
Yeah. Right.
It cracked me up.
Yeah. And I remember it when you said to Worf, he's like, you should have killed me. There's only one Damar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Only one Damar.
Yeah. So what exactly was that kanar? What were we drinking?
It's horrible. It's Caro syrup.
Oh.
I want you to go take when this is over, you go take a big swig of Caro syrup and act like you like it. That shows you what a good actor I was.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And no joke, I think my wife just bought some last week because she was baking something. So I
Yeah,
think
I
we
mean,
have
it's
some in
just,
the house.
oh, it's
Yeah.
just. And then the last season I came in, and the props guy said, "Oh, Casey, you're going to be so happy. We got, we know you hated that Carol show. We got something else." I said, "Oh, great. What'd you get?" He said, "Well, it's sugar-free maple syrup."
Oh,
Oh, just terrible, dude. Oh man.
oy.
Anyway, I was so happy the last episode, one of those episodes I did where I never drank again, where
Yeah,
I
threw it
decided to
out the
become a
mirror.
rebel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's amazing. You went from one line to basically, running
Leader of
Cardassia,
the empire.
savior of Cardassia. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an incredible arc in
Yeah, it was.
that play, and that was because the writers liked it. They liked what I did, and they kept writing more and more. I mean, the reason I became an alcoholic on that show is because they liked, I did a scene with with
With Warwick
Armin
at the
in the
bar.
bar,
Yeah.
and they loved the way that played out. So they just maybe drinking every damn show.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the like interactions between you and Jeff were it
Oh
was
yeah,
not meant to be,
like,
comedic, but it was. It really
yeah,
was
like the
two of you
frickin'
just
frack of outer
yeah.
space, the Bickersons of outer space, we
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
One of the things they had to do, because when I was doing a show in New York, I would fly back on the Monday, and they would have to shoot all our stuff just in that one day, and then I'd fly back and do the show. Which, like I said, they could have killed me off. They could have written something else, but they didn't. So I'm pleased.
Yeah.
And Jeff and I are still great friends, and he's so terrific. And we do been doing a lot of conventions lately. We were just in where we were in Dallas, in
Okay.
Denver, in Nashville, and Secaucus, and Chicago, San Francisco. We're going to do a big cruises coming up. I think my sixth or seventh Star Trek cruise that I
Wow.
did. That's a hoot in the middle of the ocean with 3,000 Star Trek fans. It's a blast.
Right. Any like crazy stories about that?
Well, come on, it's all crazy.
Yeah.
But for us, it's not really it's not a vacation for
The
us. We
job, right?
they work our butt
Yeah.
off from 9 in the morning all the way with stuff to do, and you got to do, I do wine tastings, and so it's working. It's
Yeah.
working every day, all the time.
When was your first convention? How long ago was that?
Oh man, that was in shoot '99, I think,
Oh wow. Okay.
Pasadena, and I
Right.
kept thinking nobody's gonna know who the hell I am,
Yeah.
but they did.
Yeah.
They did.
I went to my first one, what was it, 94 in Buffalo when I was in college. And
Wow.
John Delancey was the featured guest there.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, that was a hoot.
He's still making hay on that, man. He is still
Yeah.
making.
And then
Good guy.
recently came back. He was in the Picard show, so it's
Yeah.
good. Got a lot of life out of that character. But
It's like the gift
yeah,
that keeps on giving. That's what it is.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about DS9 more so than any other show is the fact that it was serialized. Whereas opposed the other ones were just kind of an episode of Alien of the Week, whatever they,
That Alien of the Week, yeah.
yeah, and which
I
was
mean,
great about. And I know like and what the heads of Paramount didn't want that at all. They didn't want the show to be serialized at all.
well, they left us alone because we were like the black sheep, and
Exactly.
we got all that great writing, all those that
Yeah.
huge arc. I mean, there's one 6 or 7 episode arc when Jeff and Mark and I took over the whole space station
Yeah.
again. It was like our show
Yeah.
because all those other guys were like out in
Yeah.
on shuttles in space or something.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. And the show never really like had, you know, its own time on air because it had to deal with Next Generation and then it dealt with Voyager. So it was always on with another show, unfortunately.
It didn't come into its own until much later. And I mean, have you seen the documentary?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
And they, like I said, they let them alone to write whatever the hell they wanted. So therefore, we got great storylines.
Yeah.
Just terrific storyline, terrific characters, stuff, interactions, and just because I think the writers were great. Ira being the top dog, and Ron Moore, and
Yeah.
all those great writers on that. Wow. See, I had a big idea. I wanted to turn it into a musical on Broadway, and I had a great composer, and I set up a meeting with him and Ira out here in L.A.
Yeah.
He flew out from New York, and Ira loved the idea, but the problem is they realize how long it takes to get something like that done. It takes you a year to write it,
Right.
and then you got to go through everything else. But man, I thought this would play in London, Berlin. This would play all over the world with this great sort of Shakespearean sensibility of operatic stuff with the musical. It would be great,
Yeah. Well,
you know.
yeah. Well, if you look at some of the recent show, I mean, Back to the Future was just on Broadway, and they
Yeah,
made that in a musical. Hell, even like I think Rocky was on Broadway, about
yeah,
10 years ago. So I mean, there'd be an audience for it. I know people would definitely want to.
absolutely would. And they also could do all of the great special effects and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. It would be great,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And
it'll
all
die with all my other great ideas.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the show had so many amazing classically trained actors anyway.
Really wonderful, wonderful actors. Because you have let's face it, you really have to have a facility with language in order to make that stuff sound like it's coming from an intelligent being,
Right.
all that gobbledygook,
Yeah.
and that's why we say it's like a Shakespearean proportion because it's all melodrama. It's life and death,
Yeah.
and life and death all over all the time. But I mean, it was so funny, like that one episode where Jeff comes in. Was in bed with some nondescript Cardassian
Yeah.
female, and he said, "Oh, your wife and child have been killed." And I didn't even know I had a wife and child. I mean, if I had known that, I might have played the character differently.
Right, exactly.
But I didn't even know.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never knew. As far as we were concerned, you never knew what was coming week to week. Because like I was in the makeup chair in the makeup trailer one time. I'm sitting there and they're doing my makeup, and I said, "Oh, it's next week's script. Can I look at it?" Because they give it to the people.
Yeah.
So I picked it up and I'm looking at it and I'm looking. I said, I kill no, oh, I kill Zial." And Zial, the actress, was sitting next to me.
Right.
She had no idea she was going to die.
Whoops.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they had what, like, at least two
Three,
different, yeah,
three.
actresses. Yeah. And then with Melanie Smith is the one that you killed. Yeah.
And they couldn't. I guess they just couldn't find one they liked well enough. I don't know, but hey, it's not my problem.
Yeah,
Like I said, they
exactly.
could have killed me off at any time.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Mark and I were such good foils, Alimo and I,
Yeah.
and then they hooked me up when Jeff and I got involved. It was like it was a great sort of back and forth between he and I.
I'm not going to ask you how long you were in the makeup chair because that's kind of a question
Three
you
hours.
got a lot. 3 hours. Okay. Now, do you prefer performing like with the makeup and prosthetic? Or
Wow.
you rather just be like you had an episode as a human, Dr. Wyckoff? Do you just prefer just being yourself?
What's so fun about that is when they did the big one where everybody was out, I was off doing a play somewhere, a musical or
Yeah.
something. And so Ira wanted to get me in that, so they wrote, both the characters into the same episode, which I thought was a fascinating storyline
Yeah.
that had, Benny writing the whole history of DS9 on the walls of an insane asylum.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm glad I got that chance to do that. Yeah. But no, it's enough. I mean, if they paid me enough money, I'd go do it again.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's a so it was great in the beginning because you have to really allow the makeup to do the work. If you try to act that stuff,
Yeah.
it's just going to look so fake. And you have to be comfortable enough just to allow that to do the work for you, you know? And but no, it's I probably wouldn't say no to something good, but I wouldn't say yes to something. I did say yes to an episode of what was it, Voyager? No, Enterprise.
Enterprise. Yeah.
They said, "Oh, Casey, we want you to do this, a great new alien," and I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And there was one episode,
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of that. I don't think I even finished Enterprise. It was
I
just
don't think Enterprise finished
yeah,
Enterprise.
exactly. Yeah, that was the only one that didn't get like 7 years. They just ended up
No, no.
fortunate. Yeah. When you're in there making the prosthetics, like what was the most amount of time you had to be on set wearing that stuff?
Oh, geez. One time, 4 in the morning till 1 in the morning. Avery was directing that last one, and it
Right.
was a Friday, so they can go later on Fridays. And it got pretty silly. It was me. It was the episode where me and Andy Robinson, Garrick, and Nana, we were
Right.
down in the basement of
Oh yeah.
some, I think Garrick's mother's house or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny. It was still 1 in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. And you're able to eat, not a problem.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I had 9 pieces on my face.
Like,
I'll tell you what I didn't want to, wouldn't have done there, would have turned it down. It was one of those big rhinoceros guys, jemadars,
oh, the Jem'Hadar, yeah.
going in their neck.
Neck, yeah.
That does not that not pleasant.
No, I'm sure. I wonder where it goes. Does it just go
I
like, I
have
don't know,
no idea.
prosthetic and goes on, oh, whatever.
I never asked him.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Too bad you couldn't be Bajor and just had the little ridges on your nose. You probably would have been
Well, the
done.
funny thing is, the first thing I ever auditioned for in Star Trek was the love interest for Nana
Oh,
and
that's right. Yeah.
Soren. That went to, again, it was between me and the guy, and they gave it to the other guy, and I'm glad because he only did a few episodes and I did 5 years.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. Was that like Duncan Rhaegar? Is that who it was? I don't
no,
remember.
you mean the actor?
Yeah.
No, the actor was.
I'm trying to remember who it
He
was.
actually is interesting. He's the one who he did Elephant Man on Broadway.
Oh, okay.
That's his name. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. All right. I'll look it up later.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you prefer being on stage rather than TV or movies?
yeah. I mean, I did all of my life. The problem when I get offered that now, it's just too much time. Because it's 6 weeks to 3 months.
Right.
And I was the leading man at the arena stage for 10 years. Great. It was world-class theater in a world-class place. And I was on the road with John Houseman's company for a few years, classical repertory company, and that was fantastic. But I was 24 or something.
Yeah.
Was the best place to be when you're an actor, is to
Right.
be have that opportunity to do
Yeah.
that. Play every night of the week, a repertory, different plays all the time, and no, it was fantastic. And I started 2 or 3 different theater companies, and I just finished directing 50 kids in Mary Poppins here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's a children's theater here, and they talked to me, and I did Newsies, I
Okay.
did Wizard of Oz, and I did Mary Poppins. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do this. That's how I got started. Somebody took an interest in me, saw that I had talent,
Hmm.
whatever, and so I did that. So I'm glad I did.
Right. Yeah. Well, when did you like first know that this was going to be your career?
When I realized I wasn't going to be a professional football player in high school, I can sing. I always could sing.
Yeah.
Um, and we had this high school I went to in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, Central Catholic High School. They were pretty famous for their musicals. And I did the lead in 3 years from sophomore, junior, senior. I was the lead in the musicals. And then people saw it and they said, well, if you want to do this, you should consider going to one of these schools to get training. And I got into all of them. And I thought, well, the best of them would be to go to Juilliard because you're in New York.
Right.
It's nearly impossible to get into that school. And I did. I'm glad I did. It was tough. It was hard. They auditioned 1,000 people. When I auditioned, they only took 30 of them.
Wow.
And then after the second year, they cut 15 of them.
Wow.
So the fact that you even made it through was a big deal. But in my class, Robin Williams, Kelsey Grammer, and Chris Reeve was there, Harriet Harris. I mean, just fantastic actors. We're still working.
Yeah.
Well, not Chris and Robin, but so you breathe rarefied air there.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with Jerome Robbins, and
Wow.
I mean, just all these great people. So I was lucky, fortunate.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about Christopher Reeves if he was there when you were there because I just watched his
Well,
documentary. It
he
was
was a friend, yeah.
yeah. That was very amazing. I
And
was
then Robin was even closer. Robin and I were very close
right.
until he got to be a big star. Then you get to be that big, and there's too many layers between you and the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should have seen our Midsummer Night's Dream where he was playing bottom in it. It was and the
Right.
thing about Robin, he wasn't really all that funny in school because it's when he broke out and started doing improv and stuff,
Yeah.
which is really, really took off.
Yeah. Was that something like he always wanted to do?
I don't think he knew what he wanted to do. No, but none of us did.
Right. Yeah.
On weekends he'd go out and do mime in Central Park and
Yeah.
make some money,
Yeah.
and that's what he would do. And then our third year, we were in production with a Tennessee Williams play, and we left for Christmas, and he just didn't come back.
Hmm.
He didn't come back. I think he got a girl pregnant or something. That's what I heard.
Right.
The next year, he called me. He said, "You know, Casey, they said I can come back to school, but I'd have to go back into the year below you guys." And I said, "Well, I mean, what are you doing now?" He said, "Well, I'm starting to do stand-up stuff." I said, "Do you like it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you want to come back? You don't want to be with a different class." So I claimed complete responsibility for Robin Williams' career. No, but I mean, you if you've ever seen him on stage,
Yeah.
there was nothing like it. Just
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. He
He
was a
called me
force.
up and said, "Hey, I'm going to sneak into the comedy club tonight. Why don't you come down?" So I would, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's a tragic loss. It really was.
unbelievable. What was that? He had that malady. What was it? The Dewey syndrome, where just your brain just starts to
Yeah.
go crazy or something. Just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Yeah, because during the Christopher Reeves documentary, I forgot who it was, maybe one of his kids mentioned that if Chris was still alive, maybe Robin would have been. So I don't
Well,
know.
you think that too. You think, well, if I had called him, would he have been?
Yeah.
And you get into that
A lot of what
place.
ifs.
I think it doesn't what's his name have that same problem? Die Hard. What's his name?
Oh yeah, Bruce Willis. I think so.
The same thing. It might be the same thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because
But,
yeah, because he just like churned out a lot of movies recently just before the like disease really affected him. So
well, I think it already had. They were just if you saw any of those movies, he just doesn't do anything in them.
much, yeah.
But
Put his name on it. Yeah.
it's a terrible, terrible, terrible.
Yeah. You mentioned like you like to sing and you have a couple bands, from Star Trek, the blues band and then the Rat Pack. How did both those come about?
Well, I first started doing the Enterprise Blues Band with Vaughn
Yeah.
Armstrong, and I don't know Vaughn. Vaughn and I were in Florida somewhere, sitting next to each other, signing, and had been learning how to play the ukulele. And he said, "Oh, listen to this song that I wrote." He wrote some song, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, interesting. Let me see that." And I took, and I can play the ukulele. He said, "Wow, you're better at me than I am." And I said, "Well, hey," he said, "You want let's put a band together because the fans would like that."
Yeah.
He and I and uh, Steve Rankin, who's also been in the show, and he's a fantastic musician. We got together and wrote an album, wrote songs, and we got I think 3 albums out there, and it's just fantastic
Mm.
stuff. Really good music.
Yeah, it is.
And we still, if somebody hires us, we'll go play. And then with the other one, with the Rat Pack, which is really fascinating, Lolita Fatjo, who was our manager for the Star Trek stuff, because Max Grudenchik was doing a bunch of it, and she said, "You know what? You should get, let's get Casey and Vaughn and Max, you together, and Jeff, and let's do this whole sort of Rat Pack thing in Vegas." We were. Have you ever seen the Rat Pack thing?
Yeah, I've seen videos. It's really good.
Yeah, and tuxedos and
Yeah.
cocktails and jokes, and,
Yeah.
and Max wrote a lot of the songs. I wrote some, and Jeff wrote some, and we've been doing that show for 15 years in
Wow.
Vegas now, and we've actually done it. We've been doing it every place we've gone, actually, uh, with the Creation group, and we just last 2 Augusts ago when we did it, we came out and I kept everybody together and we went into a studio and recorded the album.
Mm.
So we actually have a CD album now, and people love it. Anybody out there listening to this, go to StarTrekRatPack.com and you can get the Rat Pack CD, and it's fabulous because Ethan Phillips is on it, and
Yeah.
we took a bunch of his jokes from one of our live shows and put them in there, so the album really sounds like a live performance, which is
That's
terrific.
great. Yeah. And you guys perform that on the cruise and stuff like that too?
Well, we're doing it on the cruise. We do in Vegas every year. We've actually done it in every stop we've done this tour, which is, Dallas and Denver and Chicago and New Jersey and San Francisco. So, and the fans, say it's their favorite part of the conventions.
Right, sure.
It is. It's just a
Yeah, you
blast.
guys are really talented. It's good, yeah. I know like Brent Spiner had an album out there. It was Old Yellow
Green Eyes
Eyes.
are back or something.
Yeah, Old
Yellow
Yellow
Eyes.
Eyes. Yeah. and he had, I think, what was it, Patrick Stewart was on there, Michael Dorn, and I think LeVar, a couple of the cast members on there. So it was, and then William Shatner's, which is another thing altogether. Enough said about that one.
There's a funny story during our show. Jeff talks, says it, tells the story. He said after we were in Vegas and we went into the green room before we went on, and Shatner's sitting there. He said, "Well, what are you in tuxedos for?" And Jeff says, "Well, we got this Brat Pack show and they love it, and we tell jokes and sing and everything." And he said, "And also I do an impression of you in the show." He said, "Oh, I'm sure you do, but I do it better." He says, "Jeff does a better impression than I do."
Right.
But great fun.
Right. It's funny because everyone has like three impressions, I think. William Shatner one, a Christopher Walken one, and then a Michael McDonald, the singer.
Well, they're all easy. Well, Michael McDonald's getting more popular now because it's yacht rock stuff.
Yacht rock thing, yeah.
Well, I just watched that documentary.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
But Walken is easy because he's and so is Shatner's easy as well.
Exactly. It's low hanging fruit, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. When you're on DS9, were there any like input that you had about Damar?
Rarely did they don't ask you for one thing.
Yeah.
And mostly they won't let you change any lines or anything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the show, the last show that we did, episode where I died.
Yeah.
I got the script and I'm looking at it and it says Damar is killed by ND aliens. N/D, which means nondescript alien.
Yeah.
And I went to the director, Alan Craker, who was a buddy by then too, and I said, Alan, come on. I can't be killed by a nondescript alien. Yeah. Come on, what are you doing? And he said, well, how do you want to die? And I said, well, this is what I want to do. I said, John Woo movies? You know John Woo movies?
Oh, yeah.
I said, I want a John Woo death. I said, I want a bullet ballet. He said, I want to have two huge weapons and I want to take out 50 bad guys, which were the Jem'Hadar, I guess. Yeah. And I wanted my chest to explode and I want to die in somebody's arms. And he looked at me and he thought about it and he said, okay. So that's how I died.
Right.
For Cardassian, all these squibs in my chest, and then I die in Andy Robinson's arms.
Yeah.
That was funny. So anyway, that's the point. It's not a lot of it.
Right. And that's funny because you already had a John Woo death in Broken Arrow.
And that was a funny story too, because that was another thing. The audition, actually I went into a casting director's office and they filmed something. Yeah. And the part that I did was not what I read for. And I didn't even hear about it until 3 months later. Okay. I got a call and said, oh, they want to hire you for the Broken Arrow. And I totally forgot about it because, right. But, it was, I was one of the 5 bad guys with Travolta. And it was Huey Long's first big movie, the football guy.
Yeah.
And so my death in that was the very last shot of the entire film.
Wow. Okay.
It was 3-4 months, I don't even know how long they were shooting it. And it was a Universal. No? Fox. It was at Fox. And so I go in there and if you remember, I get killed. They shoot me through the thing, right? And so they have this helicopter suspended in the air. And then I'm strapped into the helicopter and, supposed to be looking down, making jokes about the guy and all that. And there was a guy underneath my feet because they had to shoot a hole through the bottom glass. And then I had this squib thing here that shot blood out everywhere. It was a very complicated shot. And the first AD came up to me and he said, now, this is the last shot of the entire film. And if we don't get it, it's about a $200,000 reset.
Yeah.
Because I would have to get washed and cleaned up and have to wait. So we would prefer not to have to do it. And also, every mark I hit was so specific. I get hit, I had to fall into the camera at a very specific place and blah, 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 blah. So, of course, I'm a pretty chill guy. But the moment he said that, my shoulders went up to my ears. I said, oh, shit, I've got a $250,000 shot here
Right.
and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I pulled it off and I died and it was fine.
Yeah.
But that was pretty funny. The last shot.
Yeah. No pressure at all.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had one of the coolest scenes in that whole movie. And I don't know if it was meant to be cool, but when you picked up the chocolate bar from the dead guy and just started eating it.
You know what?
Love
That
that.
wasn't in the script. I
Okay.
told, I told, I was supposed to walk over, I was supposed to walk over, tie my shoe, and the guy gets shot behind me, and then he's eating something. And when that happened, I looked at him, he had a chocolate bar, and I just said out of the side of my mouth, keep rolling, keep rolling. So I went over and I picked up the chocolate bar and started eating it. And I thought that really makes a statement,
Yeah.
And then they say, hey, where's Travolta? I said, I don't know. Oh, yeah, here he comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny, funny, funny. I
Yeah.
love John Woo stuff. He's got a new movie out, which is a remake of his very first film that he did with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember that film at all? I forget what it was called, but he instead of Jean-Claude Van Damme, he's got a young French woman as the lead in that.
Okay. I'm trying to think which.
Killer. Yeah, The Killer, that's what it's called. The
Okay.
Killer. Yeah. It was terrific.
Yeah. Was there ever like a actor or director that you worked with that you were originally like in awe of?
Well, I have to say I was not in awe of De Niro
Okay.
because I felt on the same, I mean,
Yeah.
we had a great conversation and this and that.
Right.
Director-wise, the best directors I've had have been in the theater.
Okay.
Genius directors. Lucian Pantilier, Romanian director, Doug Wager, Garland Wright, who ran the Guthrie Theater. Brilliant, brilliant guys. And I direct as well, and
Right.
that's where I learned my craft as a director.
Yeah.
But film-wise, um, no, there's nobody that. I mean, as a filmmaker, you're dealing with so many different things. I mean, I've written films and I've produced them and I've been in them but if some of the things had broken my way differently when I was younger and I became a really hot commodity that they wanted me, I probably would have produced and directed more than I would have acted.
Okay.
Acting, as I said, you're a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
As a producer and a director, you're sculpting the whole thing. And that's what I love the process. As an actor in a film, the process you're hardly part of the process at all. You come in, you do your thing, you leave. Unless, you're one of the big stars. The only autograph I ever got was of Jimmy Stewart.
Oh wow.
And I was on a show with him once, and because I'm not an autograph guy, but I've loved him so much. And so I asked for his autograph, so I got it.
Yeah. Wow. That's actually funny because I got yours right here on your card. And
Was that live, or did you send that to me?
no. I used to collect cards and this came in a pack and I pulled it
Oh,
and I actually got yours. So this was years ago. Very nice signature because now, especially athletes, they don't take time to sign anything. I
it's
mean,
like Jeff Combs. You can't read a freaking thing. You
yeah,
can't understand anything that he. I said, Jeff, write your name so people can read it, for Christ's
right.
sake.
It's great because now I think, especially with these cards, they just sign it next, they sign it next. So it's just like, you might get two letters that you can recognize, or there's a line or something like that.
Yeah, no, and I make it a point. When fans come, they spend a lot of money and a lot of effort to get there.
Yeah,
So I think they deserve some attention. Somebody like Shatner, just same thing, just
yeah,
keep going. But I make it a point to engage with people.
right.
So I think it's if they're going to spend all that money and all that time and effort, and come from all over the world or whatever, they deserve some
Yeah,
attention. So that's what I try to do.
yeah. Because my son drags me to a lot of the Comic Cons, especially the New York one, which is big, and they're quite expensive. Some of these
Oh,
autograph signings, and we did one with Mark Hamill, and thankfully he had a nice signature. So rather than just you wait online, spend the money, and then you see like, what does that say? I don't,
who is that? Yeah, right. Well, it's expensive. You got to pay 400, 500, 600 bucks to get in to these Star Trek conventions, and then spend
yeah,
40 bucks for an autograph or whatever. I
yeah,
mean, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like our CD, the Rat Pack CD, which it's charging $60, but it's got 5 signatures on it.
Okay.
So
So
if
that's
you
good.
tried to get 5 signatures, that's over $100
Yeah.
right there.
Right.
So
Yeah.
plus you get the entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's a win-win. Yeah. Has anyone ever dressed up as Damar at one of the conventions?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm tattooed on people's bodies all over the place. I
Where's
mean,
the most interesting spot someone tattooed themselves of?
well, on the leg, on the back shoulder, on the
Yeah.
arm, you know.
Yeah.
And I've signed one, and then they went and had that signature tattoo.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, you're going to be 80 years old one day, and you're not going to be happy about
Right.
this. So,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah. What was your reaction the first time you saw that?
I was gobsmacked, and it was a great tattoo. It
Yeah.
really looked, really looked like me.
Right. So you see some of these and people are like, the detail of them, it's amazing. Like the artists are so creative and so
Oh my,
talented to even do that.
it's amazing. I don't like pain, so I will never have a tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Yeah. And you mentioned directing. Was there ever a chance to direct on DS9 or any Star Trek show?
No, there would have been if it had gone longer because I was sitting in watching editing sessions and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, Roxanne, when she started that, so I mean, she spent
Yeah.
a long time,
Right.
trying to get to that place. It's harder for a woman, I think, than a man.
Yeah.
For 6 months, you have to shadow every director and
Right.
do all that because it's an enormous amount of money in your hands, and you have to get 7 to 8 pages a day. Otherwise, you don't make the week, and that's what it's all about: time and effort. And opposed to feature films, where you can, spend an entire week on one shot.
Right.
Can't do that in TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And they had like, Jonathan Frakes did 2 movies, and then we all know Shatner did one, and then, Nimoy, did one.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan's a terrific director.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then
in our show they had
Avery did one.
Dorn directed,
Yeah.
Renee directed,
Yeah.
Andy directed one, I think,
Yeah.
or two.
Who was your favorite out of the actors to work with as a director?
Well, who was really good was Avery.
Okay.
Avery was very very good. Um, Renee, I loved Renee. Renee he did the directed the episode where I stopped drinking. Thank
Okay.
goodness, so he
Yeah.
did a great job with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How much different is it to have like an actor direct as opposed to just like a regular director? Like, what's the biggest difference?
Well, the difference is people who are just technicians don't understand actors.
Right.
They'll understand the camera, this and that, but they don't know how to talk to actors. If you have been an actor, you know how to talk to an actor. You know how to talk to them and help them be better than they can be by themselves. But there's a lot of there was one director who did a few episodes. What's his name? I can't remember his name, but he was fascinating. He told me a story. He said, I was directing an episode of Cagney and Lacey. You remember
Okay.
that show?
Oh yeah.
Cagney and he was talking to who was the leads? What were their names?
It was like Tyne Daly and Sharon
Tyne
Blake.
Daly. Tyne Daly came to him and he said, you tell us you want to do things, but you don't know what the motivation is on the lines and all that. So she explained to him the whole thing. So he started writing down the motivation in his script of every single line. So so that really changed the way he started to direct, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
But and also you got to know how to talk to actors. I mean, you can say, I need you to go over here. And the directors say, why?
Right.
I said, because I need you over there for the shot. Well, that's not what you want to hear from a director. You said, well, we need to find your motivation to go from that place to this place. What you want to get a better advantage? You want to get a better look at something? You want to have more of a power play or something? This is all the kind of stuff that if you're an actor or a good director who understands actors, you can communicate all that stuff,
Right.
opposed to just being, the shot is here, I need you there, you figure it out.
Right.
And a good actor will figure it out.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Casey, this was fantastic. I really appreciate your time today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Where can people get the Rack Pat CD again?
StarTrekRatPack.com.
Nice.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
And they're out there. They're great. We usually have them when we're playing somewhere too. But if you want to hear it and we're not there, go there. And they'll ship it to you. They're all signed by all of us on the show, which is Jeff, me, Vaughn, Ethan, and Max. Cheers.
And a special thanks to Casey for joining me today. Go to StarTrekRatPack.com for your CD. It is autographed by all the members of the band. And if you have a guest suggestion, hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at @TheFirstNoel19. Be sure to like the page Rolling My Youth on Facebook. You can go to iTunes, check out all the past episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. If you don't have iTunes, not a problem. Show's on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music. Basically, wherever you can find a podcast. A new episode comes out soon. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you then.